We are on air.
hmm How you doing?
I'm okay. I start
Yeah.
my new job tomorrow.
Oh, that's exciting. And you're just gonna get right to work? Like they're already setting you up?
I am just trying to get set up with my new computer and I'm trying to distinguish my identities, my Apple IDs. It's very confusing. How are you, by the way? I like your shirt.
I'm good. Yeah, it's nice. I haven't worn it that much, honestly, but I
It
love
looks
it with
good.
this with these pants too.
It looks
But
really good.
yeah. I think it's probably my haircut, which I've been getting so many compliments on. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Welcome to episode 41 of the Mom and Eric podcast.
41.
41, 41.
Damn.
Okay, yeah.
Honestly, I look back like, we've done this 2 or 3 years now, right? And it feels it feels like we actually haven't done that many episodes. Um, like you would think we'd be at 100 right now, but um, that'll be a great day when that happens.
Well, we get busy, you know.
Yeah, yeah, we have lives apparently.
We have lives. This
Yeah.
is not really our main thing. This is not really our
What?
yeah.
I thought it was. This is the only time I talk to you ever.
So today we are going to talk about Ryan Coogler's first feature film, his first major film, that won best, whatever the equivalent of Best Picture or the Palme d'Or from Cannes, but he won the Best Picture award at Sundance, where this movie premiered. So I think back then in 2013 there were fewer film festivals. The film festivals were not as big a deal in terms of leading up to the Oscars and leading up to all the different awards. But Fruitvale Station was Ryan Coogler's sort of first major breakout film, and it was followed by Creed, which was a much splashier debut. I know, when you think about it.
That's crazy.
I know that his first two films were Fruitvale Station and Creed. And I actually think that both of those films exemplify so much of what I love in particular about Ryan Coogler. But I did want to explain a little bit of the setup to why um, I I wanted to focus why I wanted to watch Fruitvale Station and why I wanted to talk about Ryan Coogler. So Ryan Coogler has been making himself very, very available lately. He's very much on the airwaves, so to speak, because I actually have never seen so much of him, not even before the Black Panther press tour, you know? And so the Black Panther press tour, I remember focusing much more on the actors. But the Sinners press tour, this he's right now in campaign mode. And so even though a lot of the Oscars future predictors are very worried that Sinners has been shut out by a cabal of white MAGA MAGA controlled media outlets. And there's some justification there in terms of how certain media outlets have been treating Sinners, how the Hollywood trades have been treating Sinners. But regardless of sort of what their Oscar chances are, Ryan Coogler has been very much making himself available, as has Michael B. Jordan, as has the cast, and sort of hitting the dinners and the award circuits and showing up at all the events and really making themselves visible. And I really remember Jordan Peele talking about this when he was on the campaign circuit for Get Out. And he said he hated it. He hated spending a year of his life campaigning for Get Out, for an Oscar for Get Out, when he felt like he could have spent that year creating something else. He so badly he wanted to be spending it like developing another project, and instead he had to go to all of these different venues and shake hands with everybody and introduce himself and argue for your consideration screenings. And he said the only reason he did it is because he realized how hard Black filmmakers have to fight for visibility in Hollywood, in the entertainment complex. And so he really felt like it was his duty to keep the doorway behind him open for other Black filmmakers. If he got the kind of recognition for Get Out, then he felt that other filmmakers might have a shot at getting this. So, in other words, Ryan Coogler is doing a job when he is showing up on podcasts and showing up and doing interviews and showing up to all these different events and festivals. Even if Sinners isn't winning anything so far, he's doing his job to visibility. And I just wanted to say this just because I want to talk about his films primarily, and I do want to talk about Fruitvale Station at length. But what he is choosing to give us during this, campaign segment is just, to me, has been so wonderful. Like, I cannot tell you how much I love hearing Ryan Coogler talk in an interview. I like every little bit of his appearances when he shows up and gives a 1 minute soundbite, when he gives a speech, when his speeches, like his acceptance speeches or his tribute speeches, are clipped for 1 minute only. I have a deep love for Ryan Coogler as a person, all the things he says, because he just comes off as the most humble, kind person ever. And he's not, by the way, it kind of drives me crazy when people are inarticulate and a little bit like mumbly bumbly. And he definitely struggles a little bit to articulate his thoughts, but he is so sincere in his admiration for his craft, his love for movies, and his love for storytelling. He's so sincere in his love for the people that he works with and everybody who he's ever collaborated with. And he's a genuine admirer of so many people in Hollywood. So, I guess I would call it an artistic crush, or, like, I don't need to know Ryan Coogler in real life. I'd love it if you worked for him someday, but I feel like I don't need to meet him. I don't need to tell him, oh, Ryan Coogler, I'm your biggest fan. I don't need any of that. I just feel so grateful for how much he's giving of himself and his thoughts and his process. And this is on top of being grateful for the art that he makes through his films. And when you and I did our latest episode on Rob Reiner, we were talking about how grateful we were for the art that Rob Reiner put out in the world. And I didn't know very much about Rob Reiner as a person. So I was definitely, that episode was really centered on what we saw of Rob Reiner through his movies and what we learned of him through interviews. But Ryan Coogler, what I learned of him as a person, it only sort of enhances what I loved about him, what I love about him as an artist. And so we already focused on Sinners as a separate episode, but I really got to the point where I felt like not seeing Fruitvale Station, his first feature film, was a real oversight for, at least for me, because I love him so much. I love him so much as a director and a writer, and I love him so much as a person from what I've seen him, what I've heard him say, and then how he speaks about other people. So I'll stop there. If you want to go through the synopsis of Fruitvale Station, I'm happy to do it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
No, that's
So
what I thought you were gonna do.
yeah,
But like, I'll just say it's just a really great time to talk about Ryan Coogler now
yes,
because
and
of how,
today too.
yeah, just because of what you were saying about how the inarticulation you were talking about, it literally is just because he is in every single clip I've seen him in, he's trying to give the most honest answer he can possibly
Yes,
give
he's
that's true
really
to
striving.
himself
Yes,
and also not only true to himself, but also respectful to the people he works with and making sure they get their flowers too. And that only
yes,
makes him look better.
yeah,
So obviously we will get into the movie and I'm gonna have a really hard time not getting emotional like talking about it. But it's I think it's his best movie, and it's ironic just because
really.
it's like his breakout movie. You know, like that's how he got started, and Michael B. Jordan in it too is really young, and I want to talk about Michael B. Jordan a lot,
Yes, I do too.
and his acting.
Yeah, I should note also, I'm a little bit amazed. I was a little bit amazed when I saw that you gave it like 5 stars, and you called them the best filmmaker of your generation. So I was a little bit surprised by
I
how
said
much
one of the
one of
greatest,
the best, but I
one of
was
the
a little bit
greatest
surprised by
filmmakers.
how much you loved Fruitvale Station, because I just want to note this for the episode, is that you are such a huge fan of Creed. Like,
Yeah,
you love Creed, and you loved Creed too. Did you love all Creed movies?
I did. I loved the whole trilogy. I
Yeah.
mean, he only directed the first one, but like obviously his vision kind of carried.
Yes.
It was malleable. And he just created that foundation. And the first Creed which was his, was the best. But I also didn't give it. I think at the time I watched it, I think I probably gave it 5 stars, but now I give it like a 4.5, four and a
Yeah.
half.
Yeah. So
So
anyway,
yeah,
so Fruitvale Station came out in 2013, and it centers on a real life series of events that took place, but it's about the life of Oscar Grant, who was a young black male who got killed on New Year's Day of 2009. So the events started to unfold. The film focuses on New Year's Eve primarily. Most of the timeline takes place on New Year's Eve of 2008. And it really just shows the life of Oscar Grant. That's what the movie is about. It is about the life of Oscar Grant. And there are some flashbacks that talk about his, who he was, that he had been in prison, that he was trying to get his life straight again, that he had a daughter. But it's really just um, both ordinary. It really is just a series of, it's a day in the life of Oscar Grant and showing all the events that led up to his being shot by a cop, a BART transit cop. For any listeners, that BART is the public transport. It's a public subway system in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's long been known as kind of a shithole of a public transit system. But he was killed by two cops who, and this was recorded on cell phones. And because it was packed, the BART was packed with New Year's Eve people going home to Oakland. And Ryan Coogler is from Oakland, I should note that. And so it's really the events leading up to him getting shot, and then a little bit of the aftermath of him being shot, because he was admitted to the hospital and then he died shortly after he was admitted to the hospital. So that's what the movie is about. Michael B. Jordan plays the role of Oscar Grant. Octavia Spencer plays the role of his mother. She was really powerful, really, really
Mm.
powerful in that role. And I did look a little, I didn't do a ton of research on the story behind Fruitvale Station, but I did look at some of the stories. And I, in particular, was struck by the quote of, so I watched the movie yesterday, and for me, it was just so profound to watch that movie at a time when what's happening all over the country with ICE agents, and they murdered, a woman in Minneapolis. And yet all of it was such a huge tragedy. It was such a huge tragedy what's going on right now with ICE. And yet all of these murders of Black people have been happening for that long. So the whole nation, was galvanized into action and caring around George Floyd's murder, which took place in May 2020. But Oscar Grant's murder happened in 2000, and the very first day of 2009. And then if you trace back all the police brutality before that, starting with Rodney King, it's the nation only really started paying attention once these murders happened on camera. So it's only sort of the ones that get on camera that we even know about. And then we as a nation get our attention and our empathy fractured in so many ways because of the different ways these stories are told. But I did hear Ryan Coogler's quote about what he wanted to do with this movie and telling the story of Oscar Grant. And he said, I kept on hearing competing narratives. One painting Oscar as a criminal, as a really bad person, kind of implying that he deserved to die. And then he said, and then other people in his community, in our community, were saying that he was a saint, and that he was a good father and he was a loving. And he said, and I needed to tell his story in a way that showed that both things can be true. You know what I mean? And none of these things make you deserving of being murdered like that, being brutally, tragically, senselessly murdered at the hands of law enforcement. And so that simple statement about there was this narrative and then there was this narrative, and we have become it sort of like we've become the society where we keep on subscribing, like we think that we have to pick one narrative over the other. And the truth of the matter is that humanity is really complex, and people are complex, and that we have to be able to see people as they are, whole, as whole human beings, and that even seeing people as whole human beings, that does not, nobody deserves that kind of death, that type of brutality, that type of systemic oppression and racism. And so I'm incredibly impressed by how Ryan Coogler stays so true to who he is and to and I think that what we have loved so much about his previous films, what I am amazed when I watched Fruitvale Station for the very first time yesterday, was that everything that we love so much about Ryan Coogler in Sinners, in Creed, and Black Panther, all on display in Fruitvale Station. That's a hell of a debut film, by the
Yeah.
way. It
No,
was
yeah.
so confident. It was so assured about who he is as a person and what story he's trying to tell. Like I feel like I would trust Ryan Coogler with my life after seeing Fruitvale Station. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll stop there. But that was my reaction to Fruitvale Station.
Yeah, I also watched it yesterday and I just can't believe I was thinking of watching it like before recording because I physically wouldn't have been able to. It just broke me in a way that a film hasn't in a really long time. Because um like it was just so beautiful and tragic like at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what was really just breaking my heart like throughout the whole runtime was that, and by the way, another thing I love about the movies is the short runtime. I love a good like,
1 hour, 22 minutes.
80 to 90 minutes is like a really great it's just an easy way to make me enjoy a movie. What really broke my heart was that I felt like it was such a beautiful movie, just not counting the ending, I just thought it was beautiful to see a day in the life of just this man, Oscar Grant. Um, and it was just like so devastating because it just felt so refreshing because you just don't see that about black characters specifically, and black um, people portrayed on screen in this way.
Yes.
Um, and uh, I'm sure a lot of the. I haven't read into the any criticisms of the movie, but it gets into very typical like archetypes and tropes about these characters. Like here's a main character who is struggling to get by, is flawed. He cheats, he lies, but he also cares and he loves. Um, and it's so simple, but it's done very authentically, and done with so much care. Like despite how like maybe I have seen this before many times, but I also didn't it didn't stop me from caring about these characters and their stories, because I mean essentially it is a movie like before this huge tragedy, like it is a movie about nothing, and I love a good movie about nothing if it's actually about uh those relationships and those struggles, like because that's what comes through in the end. And not only that, like just technically on a technical front, this is like a just a amazing movie. It was I love the cin I think this is one of the most beautiful movies he has shot, like it's
It is beautiful. Yeah.
like the cinematography stood out to me. Especially, when he dumps the weed into the ocean, like that shot of
Yes.
him just sitting there, like because I was like, why is what is he doing? And then he just takes out the bag. Like it really, and they let that shot linger too. The editing in this movie is brilliant. And
Can I pause on the cinematography
sure.
because I thought that everything was framed beautifully. Like I noticed it in that
Yeah.
same shot, but I was looking at it. There were just scenes where you saw the BART train moving away, the nightscape of San Francisco from the Oakland perspective,
Yeah.
even like the way that any streets were framed. I mean, I have been to Oakland a handful of times, and parts of it I think are really ugly, and parts of it I think are really beautiful, and
Hmm.
yet. I felt like even the sort of urban landscapes that he was capturing, everything was just framed so beautifully. Like, for example, when he goes to pick up the crabs for his mother's birthday celebration, you don't get the feeling that this is some like burnt out poor neighborhood. You get the feeling that this is a vibrant, bustling community where everybody's sort of getting ready for their New Year celebrations. And even
Yeah,
though the
like
houses don't,
anywhere.
yeah, that's right. And even though the houses don't look prosperous by any means, like his mom lives in a little tiny house, he lives in like a little tiny like apartment. It still feels like in these places you have to see these people living and loving and existing and just going trying to go about their lives. Part of that has to do with the beauty of the cinematography, the way
Yeah.
that things are framed and people are framed very lovingly.
Hmm.
Street scenes, like landscapes, everything is just the cinematography is top notch. I don't know if it's the same cinematographer, the woman who he worked with for Sinners, but I think he's worked with the same crew. And I was looking at the credits because Ludwig Göransson was also the composer for this film as well, Fruitvale Station.
Oh
So,
shit, really? I didn't even.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, and I loved that. I love that too because that shows
Yes,
his versatility. It's just so the music is really subtle in this movie.
it's very subtle and
And it's also
beautiful.
mixed in well. Like the
It's so mixed in well. I
the
noticed that too.
copyright music is like, you know, I was waiting, when he's in the car and then and
Yes,
he goes to the store. I was waiting for that transition where the music becomes not in the car, but in the or goes from being diegetic to non-diegetic. Those are the terms.
right.
But it didn't happen. It stayed diegetic. Like you just heard it as you would be hearing it in the car.
Yes.
And that felt so like immersive. And just as you were talking, the biggest shot I remember that really stood out to me was the shot of the subway or the BART starting and going, and it just holds on
Yes.
this as it goes, gets really
Yes.
fast, and you just see like shadows of people through the windows,
Yes.
and
I
then
remember that
towards the
shot too.
end, they timed it so well too because I mean it looked like it was the real BART train, but they towards the end they just pan with it, and then we see it go. It's foreshadowing like the incident that's going to happen, but also just showing like these people that this could happen to, like they just fade it moves really fast, like also is kind of a metaphor of how many years it's been since that film came out, since that incident happened, like, and just over and over the same things kind of happen, and we just see these people pass by, but it's beautiful and tragic and really sad. It's it's like it was so good.
It
Yeah.
was so good. It's such an accomplished movie. So, I want to talk a little bit about, I mean, we can continue to talk about what we loved about Fruitvale Station, but I also want to talk about how it exemplifies so many things that are really, I think, special about Ryan Coogler, and about the things that get rewarded in Hollywood and in filmmaking.
Yeah.
And so, there are a lot of people who are rooting for Ryan Coogler to continue making the movies like, Sinners and not quite like Black Panther, even though they love Black Panther, the first Black Panther. But I think that what people are trying to express, which I really was feeling when I watched Fruitvale Station, is, um, and I've said this when we talked about Sinners too. I have always loved Ryan Coogler's ability to find intimacy and humanity in these small moments. So he makes these ordinary interactions that we have, like when we go to the grocery store or we hang out with our friends, or we call somebody. He strings them into, he shows us how people live and who they are as people. And I really noticed it in Creed, which I was blown away by. I absolutely loved going to see that movie in the theater. And, people still talk about that scene where he's helping Tessa Thompson undo her braids, like work through her braids. And that's such a small moment of intimacy in terms of their relationship, that he's like helping her rebraid her hair and like, fix her hair. And so I've always thought that. And then in when we talked about Sinners, we talked about how does he balance those small intimate moments with the movies that require bigger set pieces, So Sinners had some really big set pieces with vampires and fights and battle sequences and musical numbers. And then Creed absolutely had bigger set pieces with boxing sequences, big long fight sequences. And then
Yeah.
certainly Black Panther did because it's a Marvel movie. And I guess after seeing Fruitvale Station, that's entirely a movie without set pieces. It's a movie that its purpose to me is so brilliantly clear, which is to again show that story, show the sort of
Well,
narrative.
the set piece is this is the incident. Yeah.
It's
I
the incident. That's
yeah.
right, which
But
is
it's so stripped. It's so like stripped down.
That's right. And I think that there's a reason why he starts it at the beginning. He shows
Yeah.
it at the
Yeah.
beginning because he wants to get it out of the way.
I so
And
respected that choice too, because that's
I
like for
know.
so many people, that's all they will see,
That's right. That's right. That was such an amazing decision. That's like saying, I'm going to get this out of the way. And then I'm going to show you who this man was. And I'm going to show you that he was flawed, but I'm also going to show you that he was a father, that he loved his child,
Yeah.
that he had many loving family members and that he had many good impulses and good parts about him, And then I'm going to show you this seemingly random series of events, like his mom telling him to take the BART
Oh
show you the
God, that was
series of events.
so heartbreaking.
I know to before the incident. So then the incident gets replayed then in a much more nuanced way. But that is such a that I agree with you. I respected the hell out of that choice that he showed that incident in the beginning and then he went through Oscar's life. And so I guess my point is that I think that Ryan Coogler can do many things, and I wanted to see him do bigger pieces like Sinners too. At the same time, I think that there are he among all the filmmakers who do small scale filmmakers, the human interactions, like the Wim Wenders. You know, remember when we were
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about, like when we were talking about this idea that you can show a person's life and you can make your audience connect so deeply to this person. Like I would say honestly that I don't have direct experience of Oscar's world, Oscar and who Oscar is as a person. Um, and I don't know who he is. I just haven't had that much experience in it. I mean, I did work sort of in a alternative sentencing organization at the very beginning of my career where I got to know lots of kids who were from families, and generational trauma and generational, impacts from incarceration and violence, which is really which that community is marked by. But I'm saying is that I felt by the end of Fruitvale Station that I knew who Oscar Grant was, and I think that that is Ryan Coogler's greatest gift is that he shows in a really like non-clunky way who people are. And so I come away knowing
That's a good word for that.
knowing who T'Challa was, knowing who Apollo is. You know what I mean? Like I know who these people are, and I don't
Adonis.
Adonis,
Sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
Adonis, and I don't feel like I had to go through layers and layers of exposition and dialogue and people saying really obvious things in order to figure out who they are.
Yeah. There is a lack of an expository, like explanatory feeling
Yes.
to his dialogue. It's always
Yes.
natural. It's always like this is a conversation. We're having a conversation as two characters. We're not like dumping this onto our audience. Um, I think I really, really, really love that you just brought up Vin Vendors because that's such a beautiful comparison. I feel like I see the similarities between um and those two filmmakers, but also like I really deeply desire him to have that sort of trajectory. Like I want him to be like as much as like he makes me love these blockbuster movies that he's doing,
Yeah.
like I want him to make lower budget, smaller scale movies.
Yes.
I mean if that obviously if that is his calling, like if he wants he can do whatever he wants. And I'm so excited to see what he does.
I'm
But
really
I
glad you're
think
saying
like
that because I wanted to say that in my previous remarks, but I
yeah.
stopped short of it. So I'm glad that you're just coming right out there
No,
and
I'm like
saying
in my heart, like now after seeing this movie, I like, and also now since you just explained what his greatest strengths are, like, and looking back at Creed, Black Panther, and Sinners, like none of those movies were sub 4 stars for me, which is like so impressive, right? But like also none of those movies were perfect for me, But I thought I loved Fruitvale Station. I thought that was amazing. And that was a smaller scale. And like a lot of the issues people have with the movies like Creed and Black Panther like are because of those giant, insurmountable things like those set pieces and like people hated the fight with Killmonger and T'Challa like
really?
it, no like, well they hated it at the end because they were complaining about the CGI of like them falling down the cave and fighting and it just they said it looked bad. I didn't think it looked that bad, but it like can take me out a little bit sometimes now rewatching it. But again, like it's just all these little things. It's kind of it's not really worth talking about just because like I just know he's gonna keep doing great things and I really am excited for his next movies. But like I love stuff that's I mean if anybody listens to me talk about movies I like now, like I keep saying the same two words. I noticed the other day, which is just like grounded and down to earth, like just being on the ground. I love being on the ground because that's where everybody's at, and it just feels more real, and I want more of that.
Yeah. I would like Ryan Coogler. He can do again, I feel the same way. He can do whatever he wants. I want him to get all the budgets and all the things
Yeah.
without any of the blowback that he's getting. I want him to get all his IP rights or whatever, and he can do, and I don't want him to be swallowed up by some machine. But when I think about the other directors that have won major acclaim or recognition in the field who can sort of greenlight, get any project that they're about, that they want to do greenlit, like everybody's so hyped about Christopher Nolan's Odyssey. You
Hmm.
know, Christopher Nolan is an epic director. He only works in epic scale. He only
Yeah,
works
yeah.
across vast stretches of time and landscape and plot. And his plots are so convoluted and so intricate, and his scale is huge. And then you have like Denis Villeneuve, who takes on things like, who I love, Denis Villeneuve, and yet he takes on things like Sandworms and Dune and Arrakis and space politics and blah blah blah, and the Bene Gesserit and all these things. And so in other words, nobody's so Sinners by far, when it comes to scope of ambition, definitely Black Panther and Sinners are Coogler's most ambitious films in terms of scope and scale. And yet I want him more appreciated for what he did in Fruitvale Station. Like I want him appreciated for telling human stories in a way that just feels so unbearably moving and true and natural and unforced, and just the interactions between the people in his films and in the way that they paint Oscar's character was so powerful. Every single person, in terms of how they interacted with Oscar, mattered, from his grandmother
I
to his
know.
daughter to his mother to his girlfriend to his friends, everybody.
To literally, I was gonna point out like her sister's friend that they had their daughter stay with, like they lingered on that shot where she's just in the bathroom, like
Yes,
not knowing how to feel, what to do, like she's just
yes,
utterly devastated. And she, I mean, maybe had a total of 10 seconds of screen time, like in the
yes,
movie, and that
yes,
is so memorable to me and so powerful. That's so
yes.
beautiful.
Yes,
But it's like,
you saw this ripple effect. You
mm,
saw this sort of ripple effect of his death, of the tragedy, of everything sort of moving through.
mm,
And the fact also that they ended that movie on the shot with Oscar and his daughter, with Michael B. Jordan carrying his daughter on, piggyback. That was the most heartbreaking thing of all, which is to say, I'm going to choose to show it is a choice, but I want to show you again. I've just shown you who he is, and this is the story. This is where I want to end it with him carrying her, his daughter, interacting with his daughter. Anyway,
no, that
so
and that shot of sorry, I just keep want to be calling out shots and moments, but the slow-mo shot of him running with his daughter was also another
yes,
moment that really stuck
yes,
out to me.
yes.
I just remember watching that and just yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's
was
it.
it was it was really it was okay. So it was a really painful watch.
Yeah.
At the same time, I also found it really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so that I think is important because there are some movies that leave me utterly flattened and I don't ever want to see them again. And I'm so glad that I saw Fruitvale Station because he captured what was beautiful about Oscar's life, what is beautiful about any human being who dies tragically. Like it reminds you, by the way, that people who die tragically, everyone's gonna try to again post them into sainthood or make and actually, he's saying the story is so much richer and so much more complex than that. And it actually, I gotta say, it makes me think a lot about sort of family relationships, especially the ones that I have with my parents, because um, I realized that I don't know, just watching Fruitvale Station, I was like, it is a choice what you carry forward of somebody. You can
Mm.
have like very real things that are wrong and toxic between yourself and another family member, like the way that his mother was so disappointed in him when she walked away and said that she was not going to come and see him again. And so what I mean is, but then flash forward a year later and she, she obviously he got out. She believed in him again. It was a renewing thing. And it makes you realize that you can carry forward what you need to about this person in order to, you know, continue to love them and continue to
Yeah.
support them. So I just thought it was an extraordinary film, and I'd like to talk a little bit about Michael B. Jordan, but do you want
Yeah.
to say anything
No,
else
let's
about?
let's move to that because I think there's a lot to be said, especially since there's such a wide discourse right now about his performances and his career as a whole. And I think there's a lot of people who are offering really great, who are there's people who are being stupid, and then people who are actually offering like real criticism and praise that is like well deserved, or just based on your own personal opinion, which everybody has. But something I saw uh, recently is discussion between with like two creators. So one guy had the one of the actresses from Sinners on. I forgot her name, but she was the girl that I think Sam was the preacher boy like was with.
Oh, Miss Perline.
Yeah,
I don't remember who the actress was, but I
right.
yes, I know who you mean.
So she was on a podcast and he was so the guy hosting his Straw Hat Goofy, that's a TikTok guy, um, was making the claim that people just forget how good Michael B. Jordan is because he's so beautiful. And he has like kind of a Megan Fox problem where it's like you're focused on that and you don't like know what he's doing technically. And it's because the sorry, what was it?
The character she was Perline, Miss Perline, but I
Perline.
don't remember who the actress
That
is.
sorry, I don't remember her name, but that
Yeah, maybe you're
actress
right.
followed up by saying like, well, he makes it look so easy. Like he makes everything that he's in like look so easy, so you kind of just take his performances for granted. Um, and then some creator I follow who stitched that Jamal Berkmar, I think his name is, added on to that because he was the one who started this whole like Timothy Chalamet versus Michael B. Jordan discussion or whatever, which became
Yeah.
really inflammatory. But he was saying like Michael B. Jordan doesn't get enough credit for the depth that he brings to these archetypes like in movies. He plays stuff you will see, and like the villain role in the MCU is a perfect example. You expect a certain thing out of those characters, but when Michael B. Jordan played Killmonger, like people talked a lot about how much they actually resonated with his whole story, his backstory, and also
Yes.
his reasoning for
Yes.
what he was doing, and that is entirely um, credit to Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler. But um,
The actress's name is Jamie Lawson, by the way.
Jamie Lawson, thank you. Um, and yeah, I just think like he shows a lot of vulnerability, and
Yes.
especially in this role. And so it makes me think about, when he, hits and when he doesn't really hit or where he has to go. Like when I saw him in Just Mercy, I watched fully that movie. And that just he just seemed too young for that role, honestly. Like because and also I was used to him playing a lot of hotshot like characters who have just like a aura. And for him to play like a figure with like that much authority, like just seemed like he was like a couple decades too early, to play that.
Yeah, I
Like
just found him flat too. Like I
right,
found him
right.
impenetrable.
And and I think that project for him, like he may have been expecting to do what he does, like is bring vulnerability to that role, but it just didn't really match up. But this creator who I was following, who I based this whole video off, he was saying that like he just hasn't done anything that's like kind of like so outside the box, or like he hasn't shown us like the weird factor that kind of makes us latch on to people who have a lot more range with their performances.
Yes.
Um, he hasn't. It's like, but like I have nothing but like the highest expectations that he will do that. Just be given. And honestly, like people don't. I feel like people don't talk enough about how like Sinners was just like is a little bit out of the box. Like you're playing in a period, and you're playing two gangsters, twins. Like it's such a high concept kind of idea. Um, and
Now
also
we
it is,
cousins.
I, and I
Now we
thought
cousins.
it did seem pretty different for him. I mean, and listening to Ryan Coogler talk about how he got Michael B. Jordan on the project because Michael B. Jordan apparently pitched something to Ryan And he was like, no, I got this story about vampires. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. But then he actually read it and like loved it, you know. So yeah, what are your thoughts on Michael B. Jordan?
Well, it's a thought that is I have a central thought about Michael B. Jordan, and it actually reminds me of it's related to not just how he acts, but also how he shows up in interviews as well. And so I think that Michael B. Jordan is his dominant strength and just incredible talent as an actor is to show how what his vulnerability can be or what his huge achievements can be when he is faced with adversity.
Yeah,
So I think he's an actor who has done his best work when he has to fight his way out of past tremendous barriers, tremendous obstacles. And so
yeah,
so that role, the role of facing adversity, the role of like being very goal oriented and like fighting your way past the most insurmountable of odds and
yeah,
that I think is where he excels because he how can I say this? There's an air about Michael B. Jordan where he looks really suspicious and mistrustful of the world, except when he doesn't. You know what I mean? When he lets
yeah,
down his guard.
yeah,
So he looks like the whole world has been kicking him in the nuts, or like he's been held down, and he's gonna fight his way out of it, and he's gonna win, and he's gonna succeed no matter what, you know? I think that particular slant there's nobody better than Michael B. Jordan in playing that because when you glimpse the intelligence and the courage and also the vulnerability when he starts to lose hope,
yeah,
like then when you see and then when he finally lets his guard down and he just loves somebody or he just shows pure love and affection for somebody, then it's so powerful because you have felt the weight on his shoulders. You have felt how crushing the obstacles are or the burdens are. And so then when he lets down his guard, you feel utterly disarmed by the fact that he's let you in and shown his vulnerability. Okay.
yeah,
So that being said, that I also think he comes off that way in interviews too. It's interesting to me because uh, Ryan Coogler has shown up as no one but himself in these interviews. He's so open. He's so incredibly kind. He's so like happy and delighted to be there. He does not act like he has a gigantic chip on his shoulder to fight his way through. Anytime like people try if you tried to probe Brian Coogler about like, well, what do you think about the blowback that about you owning your own IP rights? He was like, I'm just really grateful that they let me do it
yeah.
for that. You know what I
It's like how they were like, it's because you're black that they were doing this, and
mean?
he's like, I mean, I will neither confirm or deny
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah,
he's
he
like,
won't.
obviously, yeah,
Yeah, obviously, yeah. He will not turn away from the racism, but he also won't. He doesn't act like he's got this constant battle to fight, you
right,
know?
yeah,
And yet, every single time that they try to put Michael B. Jordan into this hot new thing in the Vanity Fair Hollywood issue, in the Actors Roundtable, he still comes off as very guarded and very sort of, and I don't blame him for that, by the way. I do not blame him for that. But Michael B. Jordan is just like, I cannot, he gives off the attitude of, I can't relax for a second because all of this is going to be taken away from me. Like, I can't
yeah.
let my guard down at all.
Well, he also had a different. I mean, from what I know about his career, it's just entirely a different like perspective because he was like kind of he was a child actor, right? I mean, like
Yes, he was
he
in
I
The
don't know how
Wire.
young. Yeah, he was in The Wire. I don't know how young
Yeah,
that
which is
he
Dad's
was,
favorite TV show.
but I mean, if you know anything
He
about
was only 13 or 14.
right, and if you know anything, oh, okay, yeah. So if you know anything about those kids who act at that age, like you're just gonna have an uphill battle. I totally get what you mean. And that's definitely out of years of probably having to deal with that shit. And Ryan Coogler has just had a different trajectory, but I'm sure he feels that at some level, you know.
Yeah, through for whatever reason, Ryan Coogler is does not come off as wary and suspicious of the world. And Michael B. Jordan does. And Michael B.
Yeah.
Jordan does come off as wary and suspicious of the world, and he uses that to great effect in his performances, you know?
Uh-huh.
And so, you know that line in Sinners where he says, when, Sammy says that was the best night of my life. And then Stack says, no doubt about it. That was the last time I saw my brother, last time I saw the sun. And for a few hours we were free. He,
Yeah.
he
Ugh.
imbues he imbues that line in Sinners was at the end of Sinners was so much that I mean he uses that quality to such great effect. However, I agree with you 200% that he needs to take on something so far out of the box, to really discover whether or not he has range. And you're right that Sinner was a little bit of a stretch in that it was period and that there was more and they had to play two people. And he did a phenomenal job in Sinners, a phenomenal job in Sinners. But he's not been given, either he hasn't been given the opportunity or he hasn't shown in these roles, but he has not had the type of roles he's shown the type of range that Timothy Chalamet has already shown in his relatively young career. Like Timothy Chalamet has already played fucking Bob Dylan, and then he played like
Yeah.
a crazy ping pong player, and then he played like a
Yeah.
17-year-old who fell in love with some dude in Italy. And
That's
he's
true. That's okay. Yeah. I
okay. So
actually
like,
forgot. I even forgot that he played Bob Dylan, honestly, like because I think it was just because it's I don't know, it's forgettable the way that like you see white actors get
yes,
these kind of opportunities like all the time, It's
yes,
way different, for
yes.
the landscape. Yeah.
Yeah. So Michael B. Jordan has undeniably given some great performances. He hasn't, how can I say this? He's what? He's 10 years younger. He's about 10 to 12 years younger than Leonardo DiCaprio. And by Michael B. Jordan's age, when Leo was like 41, he had already gotten an astonishing range of roles. Like Romeo and Juliet, he had done
Oh yeah.
Titanic,
Yeah.
he had done What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he had done The Aviator. Like that's like just like when you think about these roles that these young white male actors have gotten access to, it's astonishing. So I don't know if it has to do with Michael B. Jordan not getting the opportunities that he needs to really step outside of the box. I am not taking away anything outside of his range. I'm just saying that he has right now been sort of in this it's like he's been playing the same genre of music his entire career, from The Wire
Yeah.
to Fruitvale Station to Black Panther they're all the same genre within the
I
same
mean, and
genre.
it's worth mentioning that like he most of his or I mean most of what he's really known for and respected for are all Ryan Coogler movies.
Yes, yes.
And you know, that's another area that I would love. That's like another. Oh, and then also Fantastic Four, I guess. But
See,
he.
that was not good.
Oh, was he a voice actor in Flashpoint? Oh my God. Sorry, I'm looking at his movies. But like that's another point I would love to see him branch out. Is like as much as I love that Ryan Coogler works with the same people, and Michael B. Jordan likes working with Ryan Coogler, like, and I want them to keep working together. I would also love to see something else.
Just as a contrast, Chadwick Boseman showed more range in the opportunities that he was given
Uh-huh.
than Michael B. Jordan did. I mean,
Right.
the crushing thing for me actually was after I saw Marshall.
He played Cyborg in Flashpoint. I didn't know that. Sorry, sorry. I have +2 respect now. Okay,
Oh,
sorry.
but after
Sorry. Continue.
after I watched Marshall, which I remember we were up in Lake Tahoe, and it was not too long after Chadwick Boseman passed away, and I watched Marshall, and I was thinking that he did a really, really wonderful job as Thurgood B. Marshall, and that then a couple years later, I saw Just Mercy um, with Michael B. Jordan, and I thought Michael B. Jordan had not done nearly as good a job as Brian Stevenson, I think his name is, in Just Mercy as Chadwick Boseman did, And so I don't think that black actors should necessarily be compared to each other, but I do think that it's some magical formula of opportunities, and then what have you been given the opportunity in terms of showing your range and in terms of really showing other qualities. In other words, Michael B. Jordan, I think, is an absolutely amazing, amazing actor, especially in the Ryan Coogler movies that we've seen him in. I think that his performances in the first Creed and in Fruitvale Station are up there among the greats. And I loved his Sinners performance. I thought that Smoke and Stack were distinct characters in my mind. But it's some combination of opportunities, how you direct your career, and whether or not you can really rise to the occasion that leaves Michael B. Jordan as a big question in my mind.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any questions in my mind about Ryan Coogler's talent. I think that if you look at his movies side by side, I think that's a hell of a resume already. You know what I mean? Like if you think about Black Panther, Creed, and Fruitvale Station, and Sinners, I just think that that's an astonishing record already, an
Yeah.
astonishing track record. And I don't have any worries that like Quentin Tarantino, he's just going to make the same damn stupid movie again and again and again. So I
Yeah.
just don't have any worries about that. So I think that Ryan Coogler has established himself, and I think he should continue to make big budget great movies and also small scale intimate movies. I do have a question in my mind about Michael B. Jordan about whether or not he can play when he's not a character that's not working against every force that's arrayed against him.
Yeah, I that's that point is what I wanted to touch on that I really like that you said is talking talking about him coming up upon adversity. And when you think about that, I always think a lot about how a villain can structure a story. Like it's the hero, you have the hero and the villain, and the hero reacts to what the villain does, and that gives
Yes.
us much more ease with like resonating with the hero.
Yeah.
Um, and in a lot of Michael B. Jordan's movies, he's had good adversaries. He's had T'Challa, like that.
Yes.
That's
That's a
great.
really unbelievable foil. Yes.
Right, and then Creed, obviously, he's literally fighting people, so that's the whole thing, and
Yeah.
that's the redeeming quality about Creed 2 and 3 is that they had more distinct villains. I don't even remember who the fuck he fought in Creed 1. It was the better
Yes.
movie, but he had way more interesting opponents for Creed 2 and 3. Creed 2 was like
Creed
the
1, he was fighting himself.
yeah, okay. Well, I
He
mean,
was he was given
yes, arguably that was the kind of message of the three movies. But that also was Sinners too.
yes.
He fighting himself, basically.
Yes.
Twins.
But I meant in Creed 1, he was given every opportunity to not have that life of being a
Oh
boxer.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he could not deny it's a very like sort of to thine own self be true.
Right.
It's a really sort of like he could not deny who he was and he couldn't deny his legacy and he needed to do
His
it in a
legacy,
way.
that's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, he needed to do it in a way that was completely separate from his father, who was one of the greatest boxers ever, and he
Hmm.
didn't know. So he needed to learn how to be Adonis the fighter.
Yeah.
And he continued that struggle throughout the Creed films, you
Yeah,
know.
and
But
that's what made that a really amazing film.
yeah,
Um, Even if the villains were not as like compelling as like new up and coming boxer, like the son of the Russian guy, that was
yeah,
like crazy. Um, but what I loved about Fruitvale Station, that kind of ties to Creed. What you were saying about Creed is that it's also himself, but it's also he's a victim of circumstance. Like,
yes,
he's trying to get a job and trying to maintain his relationships, but he has all these flaws.
yes,
And particularly like my favorite scene from Fruitvale, that performance wise from Michael B. Jordan,
yeah,
was the scene with the dog. When the
uh,
dog is the hit and run, and oh my God, he just holds the dog in his arms and he cries. Like he literally, you see the tears in his eyes,
yeah. It
and
was fleeting,
it's
split second, but it was so
it's
powerful.
yes, and it's barely even addressed at all, like going forward. But we know he experienced that, and we know we felt that right with him. Oh my God, it was so sad. Um, and the blood was on his shirt, but he just, put a different shirt on. And he
Yes,
just had to keep going with his life. Like that's something I would really love to see more of, from him is like, that kind of adversity, that's like a little more subtle. Um,
yes,
or something that, again, like we were saying out of the box, like something that's just completely different.
yeah,
So but I think it's just everything I see, it just builds more respect for him. I mean, honestly, like even if Just Mercy wasn't a great movie and he didn't exactly he wasn't super compelling, like I see exactly why he kind of branched out and did that role. And I also, now that I know that he was a voice actor, I want him to do more of that too. And I want voice acting to be, this is a separate topic entirely, but I just want voice acting to be more respected
Yeah, because it's
in
hard.
as an art form. Yeah, it is really
Yeah,
hard. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And people think that it's easy. People think it's just showing up and like
So
reading into a
fucking stupid.
microphone.
I mean,
Yes.
like time wise, it might be less work, but it doesn't take away from the actual artistic technique,
Yeah.
that's it's given.
Yeah. I would like Michael B. Jordan. I'd like him to take on more period roles and
Oh yeah.
I'd like him to, but I'd like him to, I mean, I would love to see him try comedy, for example, or something more lighthearted, or I'd love him to see something more sweeping. It sort of stuck in my head, like, why does Adrian Brody get rewarded for, things like the pianist or like
The
what
Brutalist.
the brutalist, right? Like why do certain actors get rewarded when they show that they did maximum suffering, like Leonardo DiCaprio almost got mauled by a bear for The Revenant, and then that earns him his first Best Actor award. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and he made such a point about how much he suffered in the cold and how the bear, even though it was an animatronic, whatever bear or whatever, it was like a fake bear, but at the same time he said that it was so harrowing to shoot it and stuff, and
Yeah.
and it's just, I just don't fucking get
Boo
it.
fucking who? Like,
I know. I don't get,
let's get some other people like,
yeah,
doing stuff
yeah.
like that.
So I just want to say that my question mark about Michael B. Jordan is about the overall his range. That's what the question
Hmm.
mark is about. But I do think that his performance in Fruitvale Station and also in Sinners, I absolutely, if I remember the Academy, would vote for that over
Yeah.
other acting performances. I think Sinners is a great, great performance. I do. Set of performances. And so, but in Sinners, I think it's getting lost in the fact that it was an ensemble piece and there were so many great performances in Sinners. And in Fruitvale Station, I think that small scale, intimate performances do not get recognized that often by the Academy, period. I
Yeah.
just don't think they do. And
Yeah.
if they do get recognized, they more often get recognized in the best supporting role as they in more often get recognized in the best supporting actor role than they do in the
Yeah.
lead actor. In the lead actor, you're supposed to be showy, you're supposed to be raped by a bear, you're supposed to be like spanning continents and doing like you're supposed to be building this monument to yourself, whatever. It has to be epic in scale and it's annoying to me.
Yeah.
So but I really wish I could give career advice to Michael B. Jordan and tell him to let his guard down a little bit. I do. I don't think
He's heard probably everything a million times. Like
yes.
he has to process it, and
Yes.
do with that what he will,
Yes. Yeah. I don't
So
think that Ryan Coogler needs
they just
any
have to
career
have
advice
faith,
from me. Like,
Yeah.
remember when I had career advice for Guillermo del Toro? Like, I love your technical aspects of the production. I love what you do in terms of visual design, but I really wish you would not let the story go so
Yeah.
much and that you would focus a little bit more on the writing. I have no career advice for Ryan Coogler. I really don't. Even the issues that I had with Sinners not being a perfect movie, I kind of love that movie. I
Yeah.
really love so many parts about that movie. So, yeah.
Uh it's a bit of an unnecessary tangent, but just something I've been thinking about a lot is like having these critical thoughts about these movies and these performances and
Yeah.
like categories. Like, we talked in One Battle After Another. I think I said One Battle After Another was my movie of the year. I would do that over Sinners, but I would
Yes.
give, Ryan Coogler directing over Paul Thomas Anderson, like I find it enjoyable to differentiate those categories because you're not it's not meant to demean any film for what it's lacking. It's meant to praise films for what they gave us and what we enjoyed about them.
Right.
Um, but it's also really hard, it's like it's just to make those decisions. It feels like you are putting down like, other things. Um, and that's why I do resonate with Ryan Coogler. He's just like, well, I mean, I love everything, and I just don't want to, don't need to vote on all that, But if you, it's just like if everybody could respect each other and sit down, which some people obviously do, and take it seriously, and also, respect each other and give actual thoughtful criticism with reasoning, that's sound. But then there's just like with social media and with these stupid awards and with oppressive like regimes like that like try to silence certain parts, like it muddies the waters. It makes it hard to like actually have authentic conversations.
It really, really does.
Yeah.
I the lot I have one huge area of appreciation for Ryan Coogler that I have not mentioned so far.
Yeah.
And that is that when he's asked about his filmmaking and he's asked about what led to a certain decision or scene, he's so not precious about it. Like he's
Yeah.
so not like, well, I thought, like there's nothing precious about it. He's
Yeah. He's
utterly
like he's just taking you through like this is my thought process. Like this is how A, B, C, D, like
That's right.
that this is how I came upon that. Like and
That
obviously, yeah.
Yeah, that explanation when Amy Poehler asked him like how that scene, the famous scene in Sinners came about.
Oh, yeah, I love that one. I love that.
And then his explanation was just saying, I when I was working on the script, that was just originally just going to be a musical number with
Yeah, and they
Preacher
were just
Boy.
gonna die,
And they were just going to die. And he goes, and I really started, by this time, I was starting to get really invested in the characters. And so I wanted to show that it was not just about like Sammy giving a performance, but it was about his greatness, his talent, and it was about everything that came before him and everything that would come after him in terms of this tradition of music. That's an
Yeah.
unbelievable answer. I was so blown away by that answer,
Yeah, me too.
because number one, it sort of talked about him as a writer. Oh, there's another point about him being a writer.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it talks about him as a writer, just saying, yes, I was in love with my characters by that point, and I knew that they were going to die. So therefore, I wanted to talk about their impact in a way that was more meaningful than just a musical number, than just a
Yeah.
performance. Okay, so that's amazing from that point of view, and
Yeah.
then from the writing point of view, what he also said to Amy, remember. He said to Amy that he was plucked out after going through several football programs at St. Mary's College and then at Sacramento State, and then he ended up at USC. But there was this one professor, teacher, who pulled him out and said that she really saw a lot of talent and that you should be writing screenplays. I think it was at Sacramento State or St. Mary. No, it was at St. Mary's. And then I shared that clip with you where he actually brought that same teacher to a big event, like
Yeah.
an awards event and stuff. And so I there's something so unbearably wonderful about that he does not forget his influences, that he genuinely loves his characters, that he genuinely loves the people who works around him. The man is just a bundle of love. And I feel like as his audience, by the way, for his movies and his films, we benefit so much from that. Like we benefit from the fact that he does everything with so much love. And some people are super selfish about stuff like that. They're super selfish about their process. They're super hidden
Yeah.
and closed and secretive about how they shoot things or what their creative process is. Ryan Coogler's not like that. He's not going to gatekeep anything. He's
Yeah.
going to say, I love people. I love the process. I love the stories. I love my characters. It's the most open and generous way that you can be a filmmaker. And not everybody can be like that. I get it. But I love that he's like that.
Yeah, but also some filmmakers are just jaded, like they've gone
Yes.
through shitty interviews and like the motions of like the academy or whatever. So they just think that they could be above it all and like that eventually they just decide what they're able to tolerate.
Yes.
And I guess maybe Brian Coogler's just very early and in his career and in his process that like, but also it does definitely do with his personality and his genuine openness. Like I that's why I like I want to like protect him. We have to protect Ryan Coogler and we have to make sure that
He doesn't
everything
get
goes
chewed
his
up and
way.
cynical.
Yeah, he gets all the money he wants and all the act and all the people,
And all
everything.
the IP.
But like that's why it's so refreshing to hear him sorry. That's why it's so refreshing to hear him talk about like I love my characters. I didn't want to end them off in this way. Like he's just describing like, how he struggles in the artistic process and that's like
Yes.
amazing
Again, without
because
being precious about it.
yeah, and
Without being
it's
saying, I'm so different than any other people, like my process is so unique. It's
yeah.
not.
Like people, a lot of the speakers came to Chapman. were lovely, like and a lot of them also were trying their absolute best to give concrete advice to these because students were asking questions like, how am I going to make it in the world as a filmmaker?
Yeah.
And they have to answer that. So, like, praise to those people. But the most value I ever got out of listening to those stories was when they would just talk about how fucked they were at a certain point, or how like low or un or they sometimes wouldn't even say that. They would just say like, I just like did this for a couple of years, like, and I couldn't, but when you actually think about it, that's a long time, like, to
Yeah,
be
it is a
just
long
like
time.
not in a headspace where you could do something artistic or reach the level that they did. So that's why, like, when certain advice is framed in a certain way, it's like it just seems systematic and not organic in any way. But Ryan Coogler, whenever he talks about it, it just fills me with so much hope, and it fills me
Yes.
with like optimism about the world and also and art and film.
Yes. So let's wrap up. I'm so glad that we got to see Fruitvale Station in
Me
such a
too.
close window of time, and I will not detail for our listeners the very interesting arguments we had about me not me not liking to watch movies that I admire but feel nothing about.
Uh-huh.
But I will cop to that, and I think that you made some really valid points. And I was telling Annie about our argument, and she said she
Hmm.
agreed with all of your points and really felt like you
Hey,
had given me a really good schooling.
Sister
Um,
Alley-oop.
yeah, and she also accused me, not accused me, but she sort of pointed out that I somehow felt above movies, like I felt superior to movies that made me feel nothing. So, like I admired them artistically, but because they hadn't touched me emotionally, I felt like there was something wrong with them, the movie, the people who made the movie. So,
Okay.
she said it's a feeling of emotional intelligence superiority, which I have to really think about. But I really enjoy it when my
That's
two
funny.
grown kids psychoanalyze me and point out my weaknesses, and I'll cop to that.
Hey,
I'll
but
cop to that.
listen, like, just thank God, you suggested that, because otherwise I wouldn't have seen Fruitvale Station when I did, and it was perfect timing with, world events, and also
Yeah, so heartbreaking, actually.
with, honestly, personal events too. It just because I just really care about movies, and I want them to live on.
Yeah.
So seeing something, just it was so refreshing to watch that movie, even though it was so terrible. Um, but
So tragic.
so
Yes.
tragic, yeah.
So I'm interested as a close how you would rank Ryan Coogler's movies because I actually
Oh,
have a
sure, yeah.
suspicion that we would have come up with a different ranking. So like why don't you start with like how you would rank them with lowest first?
It's like ranking children, I would imagine,
Yeah.
because you could rank them, uh, but it's hard,
No, you couldn't. It's just
You
different.
love all of them, but you could definitely rank them.
No,
Okay.
that's not true. I could never rank you and Annie.
Sure. Yeah, that's what you say. That's what you say.
Okay.
Um, I would rank it.
Or you can
Uh,
start with favorite first. Why don't you start with favorite first if
my
that's
favorite is
easier?
Fruitvale, probably.
Okay.
That's what I put on the top. It's
Okay.
just the most complete experience for what it's doing. Second, I would give to. I would
Remember,
give.
Wakanda Forever is on the list,
I
so
know. Well, that's at the bottom. Sorry.
yeah.
I'd give it to Creed. Creed 1. Second is Creed 1. Third is
hmm
Sinners. Fourth is Black Panther, probably.
Okay.
I
And
my
then fifth is maybe
I
Creed 2.
oh well, Creed, he didn't do Creed 2.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, he
That's right.
didn't direct. But Black Panther,
I
I
always
fu-
forget that.
I know we're running a little long, but I just like Black Panther I love so much, and I genuinely have so much respect for, but I've seen so much cultural criticism of it that it has definitely affected my outlook on that movie. But I will always love it, and it will always be one of my favorites of Ryan Coogler's, no matter how many movies he makes in the future. But yeah,
Okay.
I just want to say
So,
that. Yeah, that's my ranking.
okay. So I think that ours is going to be different. So
Okay.
my number one is Sinners.
Uh-huh.
My number two is probably the first Creed. Well, it's the only one that he did, the only Creed that he did. Number three is Fruitvale Station. Number four
Yeah.
is Black Panther.
Okay.
And then
So we both have Black Panther at 4, I think. Yeah.
yes. And then number five. And I think it's just because Black Panther is just, I think that Ryan Coogler did an amazing job with that film, but it's just too much of the Marvel Studios. And I think that I would tend to rank Ryan
Yeah.
Coogler's original vision over anything that's tied to that behemoth of
Perfectly
a
said.
machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of the issues with it are with Marvel. Because another criticism I saw was like the white CIA character,
Yes.
in Black Panther, and like how stupid that is that he had to be shoehorned in as like this like white knight hero. But anyways,
Yes.
continue.
Yes. But the world building in Black Panther and the cultural tapestry and the way
Yes.
that Ryan Coogler gathers like costume designers like Ruth Carter and production designers and cinematographers, I just think he's masterful. Oh, and the fact that he's also worked with Ludwig Göransson all through all of his films, I think, who's now scoring The Odyssey, by the way, it's just
That
he's
guy's
a
a
really
fucking machine.
he's a
And
machine.
it was funny because he was on that Amy Poehler
Yeah,
episode,
yeah, yeah.
and he just came across like he had like sexy surfer energy. You know what I mean? Like he was like,
That's just
well,
Swedish.
I just make the music. It's just so great to work with Ryan for so long. Like, oh, we met like this, and I was like, why am I detecting a little like zest? But that
Well,
was
Ryan
funny.
Coogler was funny when Amy Poehler said, so she said, Ludwig said that he met you at a party. And Ryan Coogler
Oh, I don't
said,
think I caught that part.
oh, you don't say,
Is that the
yeah.
end or
Yeah. So, Ryan,
okay, yeah.
yes. Ryan, he said, she goes, Ludwig said that he met you at a fraternity party. And then
Yeah.
there's a pause. And Ryan Coogler goes, well, he called it a party. Amy Poehler was like, well, yeah, it was a fraternity party, wasn't he? He was like, I don't know if I would call that a party. It was just a couple of nerds hanging around in a frat house shooting pool. That was all it was. He was like,
Yeah.
that's not exactly what I call a party. It was
No,
really, really
yeah.
funny. Anyway,
That's funny.
so I do think that it's interesting that we had different rankings. So again, mine was Sinners, right?
That is funny too, because I
First
mean,
Creed, Fruitvale Station,
it
Black
sucks that
Panther, and then Wakanda Forever.
it
Okay.
sucks that I kind of take the Academy stance on this, but the horror like vampire stuff it's just not what I'm super into, And that's what like bring doesn't make me personally attached to it that much.
See,
But
to
you
me,
put it
that
at the top because you just love the craft.
I no, it's not. I love the craft, and I think that there um, was so much in Sinners. I think the vampires aspect was almost the least consequential aspect of Sinners. So I think that it is the history, it is the feeling of yearning for freedom and your own space. About how people are cribbed and confined and not allowed to exist and not allowed to be free. There's the sharecropper mentality. There's the whole thing about cultural appropriation and how the blues have been such a powerful force, and yet we continue to oppress the people who originated that form of music. We
Yeah.
continue to oppress them and enslave them in so many different ways.
I
By
think it
that
could be, yeah.
by that point in history, by the
Mm,
point in Sinner's history, Black people were supposed to be free. They were supposed to
yeah,
be
yeah.
fucking free. And instead they were still sharecropping and scrabbling to get what little pieces of like profit they could off of the land that was rightfully theirs. I
Hmm.
just want to say that. So
No,
anyway,
yeah.
there's so much in Sinners to me that I could watch that movie again and again and see new things in it every single
Yeah,
time.
and that's why I think because you rewatched it and I haven't
Yes.
yet.
Yeah.
I think on a rewatch I could definitely see it moving up.
Yes.
So
Yes, but I do want to end with your note, which I think was your sentiment, which was appropriate, which is please protect Ryan Coogler.
yeah,
Please don't fuck him up. Please, like, give him all the money, give him the
yeah,
freedom, let him do what he wants to do.
yeah.
What's the phrase? Let him cook. Let him like let
Hey,
Ryan let
good
Ryan
Gen
Coog
Z phrasing, Mom. That's
yeah,
awesome. You're with
let
the
him
times.
let him cook. But I'm really, really glad that we got to round out
You
our
said
Ryan.
something. You said something the other day. It was fire, and I was like, didn't know you talked like that, Mom. So nice. Let's keep that going.
Anyway, I'm glad that we got to talk about it. I'm glad that we got to talk about Crib, and I was so gratified that you loved it so much. And for me, the point that it was trying to make in the context of our current times was almost too crushing and too painful to bear. Like there's just a weariness that we are still doing the same fucking dialogue over and over again, that we have to argue for a person's humanity in order to like somehow, point out the senseless tragedy of that person
Yeah.
being killed. I don't get that at all. I've never gotten that, but that's the world that we're in.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love you, Eric. I love you, and I love talking about movies, and I love talking about Ryan Coogler, especially with you.
I love you too. And that was a really amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
See you
Mom and
next
Eric
time.
Podcast, episode 41.